I have the privilege of introducing my friend and the president of MSU Denver, Dr. Stephen Jordan. Many of you may not know that Dr. Jordan is an accomplished athlete in his own right. He was, growing up, he was the All-American boy who played football, basketball, and baseball. But what you might not know was that he was all-conference in football and in baseball, and he was voted the most athletic athlete in his high school. He went on in college to play rugby for the University of Northern Colorado. He fell in love with the sport of rugby. He continued to play it for over 20 years. He often says, one knee, one shoulder, and one Achilles tendon too long. But since his arrival here at Metro, he's always considered athletics to be the front porch of this university. In fact, one of the very first things that he did in July of 2005 was he changed the way the athletic department reported. It used to not report to the president, and he had it report directly to him as the president, because he felt like if athletics was so visible, then it should report to the president of the institution. And that commitment has paid dividends. And I could probably talk all night, but I'm just going to share a couple things with you. First of all, just by the numbers, and I'm not trying to just pick a couple sports, but you'll get my point. Women's soccer never had a losing season in the 12 years that Dr. Jordan has been president of this institution. They went a combined 186, 46, and 33 over that 12-year period of time. Men's basketball also never had a losing season during that time. They went 290 and 84. Volleyball didn't have a losing season over those 12 years. They went 260 and 112. I won't make you add those up, but if you add them all up and you divide them, that's a 74.4% winning percentage. I think the coaches in the room would tell you that's a pretty good winning percentage if you're winning 3 out of 4 of every single competitions that you're a part of. But his impact to the institution was bigger than just numbers. If you start looking at the impact that he had overall, you've already heard about the soccer national championship. Track also won a national championship under his watch, and I could go on and on about the conference championships and NCAA appearances that happened. The Regency Athletic Complex was built under his watch. It was actually his idea. He's the one who came up with it and brought it to the board. It's I'm sure most of you have seen it. It's a $24 million facility, which is home to the Roadrunners baseball, softball, soccer, and tennis programs. It's got a 20,000 square foot building. It's got locker rooms for all of these sports. It's got state-of-the-art weightlifting and training facilities. It's really quite remarkable. He was also the chair of the National Collegiate Athletic Association's Division II President's Council. And he created the NCAA Division II Life and Balance legislation that was passed at their convention in 2010. In case you don't know what that was, that initiative was an initiative to reduce the amount of practice time and season for the athletes so that they could be student athletes and also focus on their studies, but also focus on their entire college career so that they would be well-rounded and complete when they were done with their college experience. Diversity has been something that Dr. Jordan has stood up for day one. And there's lots of examples of that, but Dr. Anthony Grant is the only sitting athletic director in the RMAC who is a person of color. And Joan McDermott was one of only 2 female athletic directors in the RMAC. And it's that competitive drive that has allowed him to accomplish so much over the 12 years that he's been here. I personally think he's worthy in every respect of the recognition that's being bestowed upon him tonight. And so it is truly my privilege and my honor to introduce my friend and an amazing advocate for athletics, Dr. Stephen Jordan.
Well, good evening. It's so somber out there. Come on, we got to lift it up a little bit. So thank you so much. First of all, let me begin by congratulating my fellow recipients. You know, I didn't have the privilege of watching you, Charlie, run, or John, to see you run. I didn't have the privilege of seeing the 1993 women's volleyball team, but I did have the privilege of watching Kira and the 2006 team. And you had to be there at that event. First of all, it was really cool because it was the first sports festival I went to, and it was at that point I knew I wanted to bring that to MSU Denver and to the Denver community. But what was neat about it was when we got to the national championship game against Grand Valley. You know, Grand Valley is in the Northwoods, and every one of those girls had the classic Norwegian look. They were all big-boned, tall, blonde girls. You've seen Kira. She's a waif. You know, it's like, and our girls were small, and so you knew this game was going to be one of control versus speed. And the whole game played out that way, and then Kira made that amazing penalty shot at the very end. It was absolutely thrilling to be a part of that. You know, I grew up in a military family and always aspired to go to West Point and to be an athlete at West Point. And I grew up with Douglas MacArthur's quote, "On the field of friendly strife are sown the days, on other fields, on other days will bear the fruits of victory." And while MacArthur was talking about athletics at West Point and how it prepared people to be the leaders of our military on those very dangerous times, it is absolutely true that athletics prepares people for adversity. It prepares you for losing and picking yourself up and going at it again. It prepares you to be a member of a team. It prepares you to be thinking about, what is that opponent going to do, and what am I going to do to counter them? Athletics is an amazing way that we prepare young people for a future life. And I've always felt, as a president, it was my responsibility to foster that kind of environment at any university I was responsible for leading. I wasn't able to do that by myself. I've been really fortunate, first of all, to have tremendous support from the trustees. Rob Cohen, as the past chair of the board and good friend of mine, was absolutely supportive of that. Michelle Lucero, who has a daughter who just won a national championship, by the way, at the University of Southern California in soccer, has been amazingly supportive of that. I have been blessed to have two absolutely terrific athletic directors to help me do the things that I thought were important to do. So to be able to work with Joan McDermott and to be able to work with Anthony Grant has been a real privilege and makes my job so much easier because they create the value system and the leadership that speaks about the important values that we want to embrace in our athletic program. And so it's easy for me to be able to do the things that I do. I think I'm really proud of two particular accomplishments. First of all, here at the Regency Athletic Complex, to be able to provide that kind of a facility for our student athletes to compete in, I think is amazing. You know, the people I talk to will tell you it is clearly one of the 10 best athletic complexes in all of Division II in the United States, and probably in the top 30 of any Division I or Division II complex like that in the United States, and we have it right here at MSU Denver. What you may not know is that I had a vision to just move those grass fields over to where the Regency is and to put lights on. I was going to do the year-round turf so that we could have our club sports play there and our recreational sports for other students and our intercollegiate program, and we're going to put lights on it. I didn't have any idea about putting a complex out there, and it was really the trustees that said, you know, if we're going to do this, let's do it right and put a complex out there so that we had the training facilities, the locker rooms, the ability to treat the student athletes for any injuries right out there. So the trustees were an important part of making that a great complex. And the second thing I'm really proud of that Rob mentioned is this life in the balance legislation. You know, as I sat in the Division II, as chair of Division II, which gave me the opportunity to also be on the executive committee of the NCAA, and I began to look at the data, you could see that our student athletes were spending as much time as Division I athletes in the pursuit of and the perfection of their athletic endeavor. But they were missing out on the opportunity to experience all the other things that our other students got to participate in student engagement and part of the university life. And it struck us, I think, at the leadership level that we really wanted our student athletes to be real students. And so we said, we're going to pull back a little bit. We're going to reduce the number of competitions a little bit. We're going to be the only division in the NCAA that creates a complete dead period for 7 days at Christmas, so that every student athlete and every coach and every trainer goes home and sees their families where they ought to be on the holiday season. And I'm really proud of that. And it was really interesting to see, as it's now 6 years later, I was just at the NCAA convention, and it was really interesting when we were debating legislation, people would stand up and say, this is not consistent with life in the balance, we should not be doing this. We should only be doing things if it really is benefiting the ability of our athletes to be students. And it's been really, I think, rewarding for me to be a part of that. And the last thing is, I'm proud that that I really have, both in my role in the NCAA and my role here, stood up for saying we're going to be a more diverse coaching and administrative staff in our athletic program. You know, in the NCAA, only 20% of the coaches in women's sports are women. 20%. And yet, you know, Title IX's been around since 1984. We haven't made much progress. So, 73. So I have been insistent in saying to both to Joan and to Anthony, when we're recruiting for women's head coaches of women's sports, I'm going to insist that there needs to be some women in the finalist pool. And I'm going to press you really hard then when you get down to making that decision about why you're not choosing a woman over a man. Now, we're not going to just give you the job because you're a woman, but I'm going to push you really hard on that. And I think it has made a real difference in our university and in the diversity of our athletic program. And I think it makes a big difference, will make a big difference to the women who participate in our programs when they look back 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now and say, you know, I had a woman coach, and I might aspire to do that myself out into the future. So I'm grateful, really grateful for having received this award. It has been a real pleasure for me to be a part of the Roadrunner family. And I can assure you that my wife Ruthie and I are going to continue to be here after we leave to support Roadrunner athletics. And I want all of you to remember, even if I'm not here, always remember, it is a great day to be a Roadrunner. Thank you very much.